Welcome back to another episode of Rugby Through the Leagues, where today I am joined by Kent and Polly. And no, don't rub your eyes, you are seeing it. Carl has trimmed his beard and used Just for Men. So, so this week we're going to be talking about the first round of the Six Nations results, and most importantly, the unchanged fantasy picks that we picked ahead of time. So I'll start off and just say, gentlemen, are you happy with how your week went?
Surprisingly, yes, I am actually. I am seeing some of the plight that you guys were all in, with a couple of you guys who had half the team almost not starting. I was lucky and had all my players start apart from one, which was, as I said, Mr. England Mario Toje. But
it's a real true understanding of how little we know about rugby and how little we know about the international coaching and the setup that is international rugby. It's a bit humbling, really, if I'm honest.
Really is, because we've got to be so strategic with the picks ahead of time. You know, we didn't have any of the team announcements. We just went off players who were on form, who we thought, like I said, Waukee going into the internationals was in unbelievable form. I thought he would have been in contention for the position, wasn't even in the squad. Same with Ojamoa, wasn't even in the squad. And then Hugo Keenan picks up a broken thumb the week before, and I'm now basically 3 players shy out of my starting 15 every week, unless things change along the way. But it really does go to show the head of schedule, picking who you think is going to be in the team, compared to, like, we've got the other couple of leagues where we can make the changes every week. You can see how you're getting on there, but when you've gone ahead of schedule and go, right, this fella's going to play, ends up injured, going to have a great tournament, not in the squad, it's it makes for some thrilling review every week.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's been good fun. I've been getting I got neat shit at the rugby club when I was watching the game on Thursday night. I was like, I can't believe you haven't got him in his squad. Why did you not choose him? I'm like, no, he's in my, and it was specifically a BRBRE, and I was just like, no, he's in my unchanged squad, but I didn't have him in my week to week squad, and I thought I'd just mix it up. I wish I'd put him in my changeable team now as well. But you know, I think we can talk about those games and go in, because I think, you know, let's maybe not talk about the France Island game first. I think that would probably be the worst one to discuss.
Look, as the hosts of today, I think it's only proper that we talk about the most talked about game of the week, and that is obviously Italy versus Scotland, where Italy did the Scots. Best game of the weekend. What best results? Unbelievable weather conditions. You couldn't ask for better, honestly. Yeah, Scotland, we said, lads, just like a month or two ago when we did our review of the Autumn Internationals, we went through all the teams and we said, where do we see Scotland? And we were kind of saying they've kind of just weathered away a bit, but they do have the great players. Like, you've picked King Horn in your teams, Polly, and you know, he scored a hat-trick versus Ireland last year, and they have their moments, but then they're liable to do what they did at the weekend.
Yeah, I think I'm finding it really difficult, because I think we all believe that there's Scotland, you know, the possibility, their ability, and you know, when you've got Finn Russell, you can do anything, really. You know, we all understand what a great player he is, but you know, when you haven't got good go forward ball and you're not playing behind maybe a solid pack, and yes, the weather conditions on Saturday were a massive, you know, contribution to how the game played, but both teams had to play in the same conditions. So you can't, maybe is it to the point where you have to go, right, Finn, I don't want you to be magical, I just want you to be good, I just want you to play simple standard go forward rugby, and then sort of see what happens. But that Scottish strength in depth is maybe sort of highly being highlighted, you know, or the lack of strength in depth is being highlighted in terms of some injuries and sort of making decisions. And, you know, I think Gregor Townsend's, you know, he's already announced that he's leaving after the World Cup anyway, to go off to Newcastle Red Bull. So I don't know. Could that have been a factor in the team? Is it a, mentally as a Premiership player, as a international rugby player, your coach is, how much is he in it for? I don't know. I just think, are we saying that Scotland were bad?
I think it was a combination of, Scotland were poor, but Italy over the last couple of years, we've said, are very exciting team. They have some quality players both in the fronts and in the backs. And look, I'm always going to be a bit biased because I think that from the time that Conor O'Shea went over into the Italian setup, he kind of changed the mentality of the national team and downwards. And they over the last couple of years have started to play rugby, while in years gone it was give the ball to Parise and hopefully he'll do something. But the Italians, from like the tries they scored, they sucked in the Scottish defence, went out wide, and like Scotland at points, like we both have like Dempsey in our team, got a great try, drop of the shoulder, did a little side step 5 meters out, great try. But like you say, the quality of the depth of that squad just isn't there. Like, I had picked Dobby as my super sub because he's one of the top try scorers this year in the URC, and I knew he wasn't going to start at scrum half, but because it actually shocked me to see that he was going to be playing out on the wing, starting out on the wing, because I thought I'd be a shoo-in to come in after like 55, 60 minutes and get some points, but they're having to rely on him out on the wing.
For Scotland, 2 of my shot picks, I picked obviously Dempsey in, and that got questioned by Kyle on the first one, going, I don't know how well he'd do. An amazing game.
Yeah.
And I put Dobby in my team because I saw he starting on the wing.
Right.
And him being a scrum half allowed me to drop DuPont, allowed me to get basically Arundel in, and I brought in Kellen Doris as well.
Yeah.
So, but the ability of him being on the wing is he 7.5 stars?
Yeah, he's very, very cheap. I think he might be like top 8.5.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons why I was keeping it for the super sub as well, because I just thought, unbelievable player, definitely going to come on, but he's starting at the minute. So he was the least amount of points that I had because he obviously started and didn't get any real contributions. His points total got halved. He only got 11 points. So because he was my super sub, I only got 5.5.
Yeah, I think it's really clever that how people go around. But because like I already said, I hate fantasy rugby. It's like one of the worst things in the world because I'm absolutely awful at it. But I'm going to keep doing it because Carl said, "Let's do the pod," and I think that's why I think that the different formats, week in, week out. If I've got to think about it too much, then my brain just goes off on a tangent. But I think that to me that it questions then, why have you put your scrum half starting on the wing? Where's the rest of your wingers? Where's the rest of the squad? Was it injury ridden?
You would say that, given that you had Kingmore in.
Yeah.
You're starting Darcy on the bench behind a scrum half. Darcy was actually called into the British and Irish Lions last year until he got injured, unfortunately. But you're starting a scrum half out of position, replacing probably one of Scotland's most deadliest finishers. You just have to question the whole.
Well, this is why we're always saying, like, this is why these lads are international managers, and we're just jumping on a pod having a chat about it. Like it goes beyond our thought process of it.
But we're just saying the same stuff that everybody else is saying week in, week out. It's like, I can guarantee you there were a few people in, north of the border in Scotland that's sitting there going, what on earth is he doing? What's this going on? But then there will have been a few other people going, oh, that was a right decision. That was a good decision. That was what else has he got? What else is his choices? What else has he got? And I don't know. I think it's you know, where does Scotland stand now? I mean, bearing in mind where do they go to this week? So it's Scotland. Is it Scotland?
England.
England this weekend.
England,
you know, I mean. I don't even want to be the one to call it, but you know, I think if the same Scottish team plays on this weekend, or that same level of performance, I think England will be, you know, licking their lips to really get stuck into them, because you know that they are that England team from Saturday. You know, I think after 50 minutes, I think they need to learn how to put my personal opinion, they need to really know how to put their, you know, foot to the throat and really kill off a game. And I think they let Wales not come back into it, because I think the game was gone, and they kind of just stopped playing to a degree. With the same intensity, the ball speed slowed down, everything just changed, and you know, it was good to see that they picked it up at the end when Spencer came on as well. And you know, when you bring in your captain off the bench, you know, if you think that you've got Curry and Itoje coming off the bench, and they were two of the standout players in the autumn internationals last year.
Both got yellow carded.
I did see that. Someone had Curry in, and he had a -1 on the score because of the yellow card.
I had him. He was my super sub on Saturday, if that's what you're on about. Oh, he was your super
sub, Holly. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
But being an England fan, I'm glad there's no Van der Merwe, because normally Van der Merwe has this absolute wank Six Nations who plays England and scores a hat-trick. So thank goodness he's not back in the...
Yeah. Just before, it seems like we're wanting to transition to the, you know, England's performance against Wales.
We don't want to how good were Italy, though?
Yeah, we'll just say a couple of words on like the Italian players. Like, which Italian players did you guys have on your team? I know everyone basically had Menoncello. He got a try. I know Carl last week, when he wouldn't let me into the room, was ripping my choice of Ferrari at prop, and he ended up coming out with like 33 points. But Carl himself did have a couple of Italians. He had Canone, Gelano, both got him 44 and 30 points respectively. So the Italians last week racked up a good amount of points on the fantasy side of things. How do we think going forward, like the match against Ireland, rest of the tournament, do we see them continuing and finishing above that second bottom now, kind of leapfrogging Scotland maybe into fourth place?
I don't know. I think it's a long way. I think it's a long way for him to go, but I definitely think that, you know, that would be, to me, we were talking, if you go back 3 years, people were once again talking about how Italy and Georgia should be playing for a playoff to go, you know, into, there should be Georgia coming up and Italy going down. And it doesn't take long for a group or that the culture that is Italian rugby. We talked about this last year when we talked about the fact that the Italian under 20s were, you know, absolutely storming through the under 26 nations, and you go, well, so they're coming, and that's what you were saying. Like Conor O'Shea went over there. It must have been 8 years ago. 8 years ago, and he didn't just do the international team. You had to change. Where does it change? And it had to change from grassroots. Had to change in the age groups and everything else like that. And I think it's definitely changed. And I think that it's good for international rugby. It's superb for the Six Nations, you know, because something had to change. You know, we're in a position now with a weak Welsh team, which nobody likes to see, by the way. Wales being stronger makes the Northern Hemisphere so much stronger. The fan support, everything else that comes with it. So, you know, for Italy to get better is just so good. And I want to see him compete. And, you know, I'd love to see him go, you know, go to Wales and beat them as well. And, you know, and then really push England and Ireland and France as well. So, you know, let's see what happens. There's no write-off. You know, England have got to go to England themselves, and I know talk about them being English, but we've got to go to Italy at some point and try and get a result. And I don't think it's going to be as easy as everybody sort of assumes it's going to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Paul, you were saying about Italy had started the grassroots and built themselves up Do you think that same thing with Wales have gone the other way? That their grassroots club rugby's literally fallen off a cliff, where you got some of the Italian teams now coming through, playing great rugby, getting the talent through, where Wales are now potentially losing another province, go down to 2. Do you reckon that's going to stun their kind of grassroots coming through? Do you reckon that's where their problem is, that they're not getting the athletes through?
No, I don't think that there is a problem with Welsh grassroots rugby. I think if you look at grassroots in Wales, there's some superb rugby going on. Maybe it's to do with the management of the leagues, the fact that they're trying to. They've got a thin down player pool and they're still trying to play 3 teams and actually or 4 teams, maybe dropping it down to 3 or 2 will strengthen them. But, at the same time, they're losing some of those, massive stars to other clubs. And they have to, how do you entice people to play rugby in Wales? I don't know. Solution is, how do you entice people to play rugby in England? They've lost them. How do the Ireland team? In Ireland, they don't have a problem enticing people to play in Ireland, because guess what? It's the best league that they can play in, and they've got the best clubs, and they pay them well, they compensate them well, all of those central contracts, everything. That's why Ireland have been at the top of the game for the last 10 years, because they've really managed to sort out their league structure to make sure that Irish team every winter and every Six Nations and for the last 2 World Cups have been competitive. So I don't know.
I think it's just across the board where it's going to be difficult to keep players within the leagues. Say, when I went over to Skerries the other week, I was told that they had lost 18 players over the last couple of seasons. So the team was basically a fresh team. I was told that they had a brilliant Maori prop, only 19, 20 years old, and then he got called up for like New Zealand A and immediately just went back home. So while you're trying to integrate these players into the league and bring the standards up, in those cases, you just can't keep a hold of players for whatever reasons, personal reasons, professional reasons. It's just difficult to keep them in the leagues. But we'll move on to the England-Wales match. We were talking about Welsh rugby there. I fully agree that a competitive Welsh team is best for the Northern Hemisphere. They have one of the best stadiums in the Piccadilly Stadium. I was over there with 2 of my friends for the Ireland-Wales game last Six Nations. They had the roof closed. The anthem was actually like spine-chilling to hear those Welsh fans belt that out. They are a passionate group of rugby fans, and unfortunately the level that their national team is at the minute is just nowhere near what we're used to seeing from Welsh rugby over the last decade. And once again, it kind of showed at the weekend, and they did themselves no favors with shooting themselves in the foot with 2 yellow cards in the first 30 minutes, gave themselves a mountain to climb against one of the favourites of the tournament in yourselves in England. How did you guys perceive the match?
Pretty much that is saying, I think you shot themselves in the foot in the first 13 minutes with 2 yellow cards. And as I said, I think that hill was too far for them to climb. And then they were trying to chase the game. And I think England just managed that first 40 minutes of rugby so well. Doesn't help that 3 times Arundel touched the ball. He strolled over in the corner. I think that's all he did in the game. And he kind of come out smelling roses and that. But I think Wales losing their captain in Jack Morgan, that kind of talisman in the forwards, having Reece Zammit come back and play him at 15 to try and get him the much of the ball. I think they just don't know who they are, man. I think Wales have lost their identity and they've lost a few key players. They just haven't been able to replace them yet. That's what I think at the moment, how Wales are.
Yeah, I agree. I think England did really well to control that Welsh team, and we all know how dangerous Rees-Zammit can be, and there were glimpses of that in the second half of him at fullback, and if you kick loosely to him and you give him the opportunity, he will break tackles and he will get past the first or second defender, which means you're getting into your backfield, which is going to create difficult for defences. I was still I guess annoyed. I think that's it. Where I was still watching that first 10 minutes, and it was the structure they were playing, and I was just like, no, we've got to just trust that this England team is eventually going to get the ball. They're going to look for the opportunities when it's on. They're going to get it out, and then they'll play the ball. And actually, I think I put George Ford in my weekly team because. Actually, he's superb, and I think George Ford is playing some of the best rugby he's ever played, and he's definitely putting England on the front foot. He's taking some big smashes. He's holding that ball so late. It's like watching Johnny Sexton when he was in 4 years ago, for watching him when in the Lions and Ireland at the World Cup, where he's just carrying it to the line, knowing full well that he's going to be offloaded, and the defender knows he's going to offload it as well. He knows the offload's coming, but you can't just go, he's definitely going to pass it, because there were a couple of times he made some breaks, and I just think he's been the big difference, and answering the question of was Marcus Smith or Finn Smith's England next 10, and it's like, should we go back to the 10 that we already had? Where it was almost like Eddie Jones had something with George Ford at 10 and Farrell at 12, and he was questioned for his selection choices at times, but George Ford has just been absolutely superb, and I genuinely believe that him controlling that game in the middle of the park, I think his game management is brilliant, and I think that is one of the reasons why England are also playing so well, because they're not struggling to make the decisions. He just seems to make the right decisions at the right time. It was like, watching Finn Russell on a good day where he does amazing things, or watching Jalabert just sitting there going, oh right, we'll just do this now, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, that's on. And I think sometimes we talk down his skill set and his contribution to that team on Saturday, but I think when it came up, when they were voting for man of the match, it was the four players that were man of the match were Arundel, George Ford, who else? Ben Earl, and I can't remember who else was the fourth. Who's the second row?
Chesham.
Ollie Chesham was superb on Saturday as well. So I think that
once the teams were released and I knew Itoje was out on the weekly one, I put Chesham in instead of him. You can't go wrong.
One England player I think has kind of gone under the radar from all of us, Guy Pepper. For the back row choices England have, he played 80 minutes. I think he's played 80 minutes in, I think, the majority of the last games England have played. For someone being, he's 22, is he?
Yeah, but I think for him, he got 80 minutes on Saturday because they opted for the Ben Earl in the centre option, didn't they? So, I think I don't necessarily I don't necessarily think that would have been the right option. Don't get me wrong, I think Guy Pepper, he's keeping Tom Curry out of the team, but then I think also Steve Borthwick's looking at it and turn around and go, if you go back to and this is really silly, England go back 5 years, England couldn't finish a game. They were in a game to 60 minutes, and then the last 20 minutes they'd take Jamie George off, and they'd take all their leaders off, and you'd change your team, and they were left with no leadership on the pitch, and they couldn't see a game out. Whereas if you looked on Saturday, the moment Itoje came on, Jamie George could go off. Itoje's starting at the weekend, so Jamie George can come off the bench. Is Jamie George a better hooker and playing better than Luke Cowan-Dickie? Maybe not. But guess what? He gave you options on Saturday to start in that captain role because that's what was needed with Marrow being on the bench. So you have to have that ability to be able to change it up. And, it's great to see that England team with those opportunities. And, I think it will only get better. I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying that it's write the World Cup on it now, but definitely other teams have got to look at how different teams are playing it and the strategy. Look at the South African team, how they set their team up and how they, how Rassie plans it for a Saturday. You've got to think about, actually the last 30 minutes are really important. Whether I agree with the fact that you can unload 7 or 8 players off the bench is by the by, because I think it's ruining rugby, but that's a whole different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, back in the day when a front row had to play 80 minutes, you couldn't get 60 minutes out of one, 40 minutes out of, or 24 minutes out of another one, and then just have a little blast around, and props actually had to be fit, line out, scrummage, ruck, maul. Now you get the South Africans who could just be absolute monsters, scrum, line out, hit a few crash balls, off you come. Let's bring the other 20-stone mutant on to do exactly the same as.
But then we discussed the other players that England had at their disposal. Feo Abos is out now for the whole of the tournament by the looks of it. But Arundel was absolutely super. He was brilliant. Like you said, he only got the ball 3 times, but I think he did so much more than that as well. And, considering the fact that guy,
scares.
He went to France. He missed his opportunity to play for England because he went to France, and it just goes to show there's the opportunity to come back, and sort of perform at that highest level. If only we could select foreign players like Jack Willis, maybe that England team would even be stronger. So
there's even talk about Willis
him playing for Ireland.
Not being nabbed for us.
Ireland, France.
But it's interesting hearing you just go through the list of players there and like how highly you regard them. I thought someone that you would have mentioned in the combination with Ford is how well Mitchell complements him. I think Mitchell on his day is just absolutely fabulous as a scrum half and just can control the tempo of a match, and his speed of getting a ball out at the back of a maul of a ruck is just, it reminds me of Stringer sometimes watching him.
Yeah, I second that. I think Mitchell is a massive key part of how England play, that quick, fast ball. I think when he comes off, I think who's the scrum half came on for
Spencer.
Spencer's the one. I would say Stuart. Spencer, great sniper, great thing, but I just don't think his delivery from the base is as good as Mitchell's. And he's saying Mitchell forward, and then forward with the runners England have got off him. The back row who are like, well, Bennell plays centre. You've got potentially Pollock who trains on the wing. Then you've got Dingwall, and you had Freeman, even Roebuck running off him. It's just pace, power everywhere. I think he just makes the right decision. Now,
after the weekend, everyone going, Freeman second centre could be a revelation. It's saying that he's got all the utensils there to be a really key player in that England spot in that position.
I think I liked him when he was at Northampton. Northampton have played him there, and I think they played Freeman there last year when they had an injury and they moved him into the centres. And he's got the right size and he's got the right pace. And I think England have struggled for that natural 13 since Manu. Really, those. If you look at the centre partnerships across England for the last 5-6 years, it's just been. It's been a handful or a spattering, but we all know that good teams come from, consistency in the middle of the pitch, whether it's a 10, 12, 13 combination, because it is massively key. And, because Ireland did it for years and with Darcy and O'Driscoll and
Darcy O'Driscoll and then recent time Bundyaki and Ringrose, it's they're two of the first names on the team sheet.
And I think if you go back, England never, Farrell and Tuolangi were massively complementing themselves. And if you go back to those times where you've got that thing, is I think England is still experimenting. I mean, we still got Ajomo to come back, and when we watched him earlier last year, so good that he put him in he's such a good player. He would be in my team every week. He would. Heaven forbid that we pick some players.
He is in my team every week, and I've got no choice about it.
But that just goes to prove that how was Dingwall? Did Dingwall do? It's the combination of those two centres that's really, really key. And I think moving forward, like we talked about the Italians, and I don't think we've given enough Brex and Menoncello enough, credit. We go back to them, but Menoncello getting a try, but him and Brex, those two, I said I think if they were English, they'd be playing. If they're Scottish and Irish or wherever, whichever nation, maybe not France, because I've just seen that the French can just rest their centres and they've still got 4-class centres just coming through, and And even then, we looked at that French team and gone, probably missing a few players in that team. Oh, no, didn't matter. But I think, it's nice to see, though. And I think England have always been, lucky at scrum half. I think, they had the Ben Youngs, Danny Kerr scenario. You've got the different styles. And I think currently, they're lucky in that in that retrospect. So, but
one England player, I thought let himself down a bit. It was Genge on that game. He went in such good form for Bristol, and the whole getting that in the Welshman's face and the kind of the headbutt that wasn't sort of situation. You just sit there and go, there's time and moment for bravadery, and when you're 30, 40 points up, you just as a prop, you just need to knuckle down, screw your bloke in the scrum, and then just be Genge around the park. And I think him getting taken off at half time, I think said quite a lot to how either he was mentally in that game or how other people see how he played as well.
Yeah, he when he's good, he's superb. But when he's bad, he's really bad. And I think it's he's kind of got that shirt nailed down, and I think that's probably where England are, probably weakest at the moment is front row in terms of prop wise. We're still missing Will Stewart, who's arguably one of the best loose heads in the Northern Hemisphere. So there's things going on. I just genuinely, it's exciting to see such strength in depth where you've got to bring Maro Itoje back in this week because he's captain in the side, but it's a bit of a shitter to I think Coles has lost out, hasn't he? I'm just trying to find the team sheet. Yeah, so
Chisholm and
Itoje, but
say you go back to the whole in-depth thing. You look at Italy now, who have starting to have that depth for players. Scotland, you think they lose a few of the key players. Who they got to come in? Wales lose one or two players, could be in trouble. And I don't say Ireland are getting a situation like we said, not going to get on there, but let's say Ireland 10 situation.
But we're going to get on, and that's the whole point, and it leads us really nicely, Ken, into Ireland. And actually, if we talk about the strength and depth, if you look how well Ireland played in that second half,
hold back, Keith.
But Keith's going to agree with me. When Ireland made those changes, and those experienced players came on and they actually started to knuckle down. France were playing right till the end, but that second half, like if you turned on at half time and ignored the score, that game was a whole load closer than everyone thought it was. It wasn't, France didn't run away with it. I think, James Ryan coming on really put a bit of an emphasis into the whole of that team and sort of really sparked it. Tide Burn in that second half was just the Tide Burn that we've seen
amazing.
For the last
is just
6-7
unbelievable
years.
player,
and it's just so someone's and then you look and you think, oh, okay, so you've got Tide Burn, James Ryan's coming on, Caelan Doris is at 8, Van der Fleer, World Player of the Year 3 years ago, Sheehan, and then went, right, okay, so what happened to Ireland? And then they go, and I know Keith could probably list all of them, but the 10 players that were unavailable or didn't play for they weren't selected, but
I don't want to blame it on obviously coming into this tournament. A lot has been focused on all the injuries that we've been picking up, and obviously my fancy team got hit with one of them with Hugo Keenan breaking his thumb just the week before. But I know what you're saying to an extent there, Polly, about if you watch from the second half onwards, was that as much who we brought on, or was it the fact that France in the 49th minute made wholesale changes to their pack, and next thing you know, there's a shift in momentum? Because I would attribute it more to the fact that Gullard, who was man of the match, only played 50 minutes, was unbelievable, and it was they brought off so much quality that it brought the performance down on the French side. We did pick it up with the legs that came on. Nick Timoney got himself on. You know, there was a couple of lads, James Ryan, as you said, like he always throws himself. I thought the boys, I actually, there's another Irish rugby content creator that was at like the Six Nations press, and he did a review and was saying that, oh, the French forwards were miles better. And I was like, no, I don't agree with this. Our scrum constantly had the French scrum collapsing, which the ref didn't call as much. Should have been a couple of yellows for the French on that. I actually believe that in the structure of the set piece, it was one of the best times that we've in matches that we've had for a good while. Paul O'Connell has gotten a lot of scrutiny for being the set piece coach for a number of years, and I thought that the set piece last Thursday was the best I've seen from an Irish side for a good while, but we just kept shooting ourselves in the foot because of our inexperienced number 10, and who constantly put us into positions that allowed France to score. And then obviously the whole team missed tackles for like the third or fourth try. But a lot of it boiled down to the first try that came from Prendergast deciding to do a Hail Mary kick up the field instead of just run into touch, to take the line out as it comes. And then their second try, when he gives the worst of hospital passes in the own like goal scoring zone. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe he passed instead of just touching it down. I don't think he's anywhere near international level for many years. And I really roiled up a lot of supporters, because you would not believe in Ireland the fan base that blindly support Sam Prendergast at 10 for Ireland. They are actually just so blindsided by the potential and not the performance. And I just don't understand when Harry Byrne is playing for Leinster over the last number of weeks, that Fazzy can then just go and pick Prendergast at 10, and it came back to bite us in the arse. Yes, we had injuries, but I think on the whole of it, the performance and the scoreline really doesn't showcase really how the match went.
So question,
Keith,
Ken, do you think that, because everyone's written Ireland off now after that French game. Everyone says that they're not at the right level. They're not the right. I watched the game and I don't think that they're written off. I think England have got to go to Dublin. We've got to go. We've got to go and play over there. I still think the tournament is massively wide open, and I think nobody wants to play Ireland anyway, because on their day they can absolutely beat everyone. I think that they're still a great team. Do you think if you solve that 10 problem, let's say, for example, you change a 10 last Thursday, does that game change? Or is it a case of there's an underlying thing, in terms of we just keep choosing the same people, because that's what I've done for the last 7 or 8 years as the head.
What Paul was saying, the fact, like you say, they've picked the same players.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this to you before. The fact that Faz has kind of hung his hat on Sam's head and gone, you are my 10. Has he put himself now into a bed where he can't get out of? Or do you reckon he's trying to do it so he gives Sam the confidence to go, right, I can make mistakes, my spot is now safe? Or is that now a detriment to the way Ireland are playing?
It's a detriment. I'll answer your question here first, Kent. It's a detriment to the Irish team to keep putting a player that is not up to this level of rugby. In my opinion, I was one of his, and I don't want to be too hard on him. He is only 22, and over the last number of years in the underage scene, he has been the shining light of those underage Six Nation winning squads. where we saw him coming up and we were like, right, this fella is going to be the fella to take over from Sexton. Now, there's a couple of critiques. He's obviously, as I said in the group chat, he's being highlighted now, and myself and my father have been saying it for the last like year and a bit. His inability to tackle and his mindset that he doesn't want to tackle is helping other teams because they know they can just run through him. If you take a look at that third French try, he holds off putting in a tackle in until like the offload has already gone, and then he's like, oh, ball's gone. You know, I watched the URC final in the stadium, and he did one kick downfield, and I said he's going to run that down, but he won't put a tackle in. And he did exactly that, ran down, but he won't charge it down. He has to improve his defensive side of the game before anything else. Everyone goes, oh, Sam Prendergast, he can have a moment of magic. Oh, he's just got that something that, you know, Bod had. He can create a moment. That is no use when a moment is only like 1 second of an 80-minute match. You know, you need to be able to have someone in there that can cover all bases for the rest of the game. And when Leinster got torn apart by Munster at the start of the season, just to show you, I know we're on about the 3-10s between Byrne, Crowley and Prendergast. They put the highlight of Crowley versus Prendergast, and Crowley had like a 90% tackle succession and Prendergast only had a 40%. His defensive side of the game is too much of a liability at this level, and I think it's not good for him because he's just going to continue getting casticized and lambasted. You need to take him out of the limelight for a while, and just go back to club rugby, go back to Leinster, get your minutes, you know, continue improving, and then get put back there, because at the minute it's just not working for him or the team.
Do you know who else I thought was poor on Thursday? Gibson Park.
He was, yeah, Gibbo, and we were literally going, what are you doing? What is this game management? Anytime we had a bit of the ball, instead of trying to go through phases, he'd kick it straight back to the French and invite pressure. Over the last number of years, I've constantly said Gibbo's been up there with Dupont as one of the best players, one of the best scrum halves in the world. But Thursday, we were all like, no, this is not it. He didn't have a good game. There was people that did have good games, like Lockman came in. I thought he played very well. Clarkson did all right. Like other Prendergast, Keane Prendergast, starting aside his brother, he had a good game. There were a lot of decent performances. Some that I was kind of hoping Jacob Stockdale would perform. He's been having a great season with Ulster, but didn't get enough of the ball. Like, Ireland themselves did not start playing until the French made those substitutions in the second half. It was only about the 57 minute when we got our first couple of actual phases together. So yeah, it was the first time.
It was noticeable. Because I was at a club we were watching, and I was talking to my mate Tim, and I said, "So I think that's the first time Ireland have put 4 phases together." I think they were playing 3 phases, and then they hadn't gone anywhere, so they kicked the ball, and it's like it was all of a sudden they started getting the ball on the front foot, and they were carrying, and they were breaking the gain line, and the first up carries were good, and you know, we all know that teams is completely different when they're playing on the front foot, and you know, if you can get on the front foot, that's part of the game of rugby, isn't it? Does it matter what it looks like? You know, you can go back to, you know, South Africa go for the high ball kick and chase, and they put you under pressure, you know, by making you catch that ball, but that's them on the front foot. Their front foot is their defense, and their defense pushing hard, whereas Ireland's front foot should definitely be, let's carry hard, let's move hard, let's work hard, you know, let's get the ball moving through the hands. And you're like, you know, I think it was about the 60th minute I heard that Stockdale was even on the team, you know, or even playing, and I can't recall, and this is maybe because I can't recall who was on the other wing and who was at fullback. So, you know,
Tommy O'Brien was on the other wing, and Jamie Osborne had a good game at fullback. I think he got a great 50-22.
Oh, that was a superb 50-22, by the way.
It was brilliant. But yeah, like that. Yeah, Kent, you want to?
So in that situation, that for the Ireland-France game, the start of it, was that basically down to Ireland being that poor or France being that good?
Well, France were unbelievable. Like don't take away. I'm not taking away anything from the way the French played and what we were saying. Well, I know. I'm trying to give you guys hope. Here, look, I've got a bet on you guys winning the tournament. So here, look, here's hoping. But the French were playing very fluid, quick rugby through the hands, and it was brilliant to watch from a neutral fan point. Wasn't great for a green fan point to see them tear through us, and it was almost like our lads have become too conditioned to that type of rugby that you were saying there, Polly, where it's like pick and drive, and while the French went back to like the stuff you'd see back in the day, where it was quick, fluid, liquid rugby, where it was just everything was coming off, offloads here, just everything through the hands, quick out from the mauls and the rucks. The French played brilliantly. I'm not taking away from the way that they played, and unfortunately we were on show for the world to see how good they are at the minute.
How good was Bilberry?
You give that kid a little snippet of space and he's like a shark in blood infested waters and he's just gone. Like his pace is just unbelievable. LBB put us to the sword.
He was absolutely superb.
Yeah. I would like to see a race between him, Arundel, and Louis Rees-Zammit. I'd like to see who's the quickest one out of those three. That'd be an interesting race, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it definitely would.
I don't think Jalibert got enough praise. I think Dupont was just going through the gears on Thursday. Jalibert was superb at 10, and then Ramos at 15. And we go back to the point scoring. I had him as my captain in my weekly team, not my unchanged one. I had him as my captain on my weekly team, and he nearly scored as many as Bialberi. So he was scoring up there in the 90-odd points because you kick poorly to him, he's going to run the ball. And I've decided I think fantasy rugby should add a new rule to meters gained. If a player kicks the ball, if he's received the ball and he kicks it back and then they kick it back, it's the distance between his initial caption of the ball and because
there you go, Six Nations fantasy, get that into the stats.
So when they kick, because otherwise it's just like when they play a little bit of kick tennis, there's actually one of them who loses. Well, actually the person who initiates that first kick, well, actually I received it in my own 22, but eventually we've moved up and we got the ball on the halfway line. So meters made is 25 meters, not from kicking it straight out. That's not what I'm looking at, is it? Because otherwise it'd be like, we just stack the team full of 15s and we just go, that's not how a game works. But it should be talking about meters carried and meters, and meters made, because it's the right decisions. Like we're talking about the 50-22, they're going to reward points for the 50-22 because we've seen this space in the open backfield. But it's those 15s that are clever enough where they're in enough space where they've got the option. That's why Ramos is so good, because he just sees some stuff as well. Don't get me wrong, I'd be quite happy to run at him defensively and him trying to tackle me. He would still tackle me, but he might be a bit scared initially.
This is what Carl was saying last week on the first episode of the fantasy, was like saying like Ramos is good, he's going to get your points, but he's also defensively a bit light and a bit of a right. You can target him, that you can get through him if you go at him. But he is, for such a world-class player, I still think he's unbelievably underrated. I was at the Leinster Toulouse Champions Cup final in London the other year, where Toulouse beat us, and everyone was singing Dupont's praises that day, but it was Ramos that won that match for them. He was absolutely next level that day, and I was like, look, you can talk about Dupont all you want, but Ramos is your guy. Like, he is a brilliant kicker. He's just got a phenomenal head on him. You take that try in the second half when he kicks over the top, or he runs onto the ball over the top and he just throws his boot at it and it leads to a try, you know?
He definitely did. That was just, but I also think that the rub of every single bounce went France's way. It also doesn't help that they've got my least favourite referee, but, you know.
Yeah, we won't talk about him.
You know, but I don't, you know, everyone looks back and goes, in my personal opinion, I think that there were 2 forward passes. I called them on the day. I didn't, you know, at no point did we go back and have a look at them. At no point, you know, for some unknown reason, the game wasn't scrutinised like the way almost every single game that I've seen played, you know, 1,000 times before at international level was scrutinised. It's like, well, when's the TMO going to jump in? Are they going to say anything? Don't get me wrong. I think that's better. You don't want the TMO to jump in every 5 minutes or 2 minutes, but you should at least look at some stuff.
Well, that's what we were saying. Like, there was so many clear, what we believe yellow card offences from the Welsh down on the floor, even leading up to the try that the TMO brought back. And we were like, well, if the TMO was bringing it back for like a possible like knock on, why isn't he then going back literally like one tackle before to be like, right, there was no wrap there, you know? It's well,
he declared that as a wrap, though. He did, didn't he? And he said, his other arm was there. And I was like, yeah, but that wasn't the arm that he made contact with. You know, it's like, as long as you got your other arm up and you run in there, as long as you smash him, it doesn't really matter what happens.
See, when the referee at one point, the referee actually heard the radio on the TV went, it's right, if there's an issue, the TMO will bring it back. But he hasn't asked the TMO to get involved. The TMO's not going to go, oh yeah, by the way, they have done, but if we want it, the referee normally has to go, hang on a minute, is there something there? He's just bottled it and gone, no, it's this, because if the French TMO is going to give a try against the French, he's going to keep it that way, isn't he?
It's not a French TMO, though. You know that, don't you?
I know. I was joking.
He
seemed to be French. So
they
go to be French, didn't he?
They go in a group, don't they? It's the same group of people that are watching it. So they go as an international team. And I mean, personally, my personal opinion is he shouldn't be international. He's not an international referee. But hey, what do I know? You can get away with pulling. You can get away with pulling, you know, a guy from the back of a mall in a Premiership game and go, look, if you run now, you can score. Like pulling his shirt. It's like, what? You know, hang on a minute.
I put that in the group chat.
Hang on a minute. How has that even been not even discussed? It didn't even do you know what I mean? You know, I think it's absolutely crazy. You know, I think there's some really good referees out there as well at the moment as well, and I think, you know, there are also some really poor ones. Yeah. So hey.
So guys, on the fancy for your weekly team, who was your top point scorer? Not doubling it for captain, obviously. So who are you happy you put in?
I can't even view my team. It's on my phone, and I've actually logged on my phone.
So my top point scorer was Ford. He had 55 points.
Jesus Christ. Was he the top point scorer of the week then? He must have been, because Bielbury only got 51 points.
Yeah.
46. Yeah, he only scored 3 tries, didn't do anything else, did he?
Earl had 50, so he'd be like a close second. I don't know what Ramos must have ended up with a...
Gullian got 50 as well, I think.
Right.
He got 42.
Yeah,
because he's in my team.
No, so, he got 42. He got 42 plus man of the match. I think there are some good. Who was the top point scorer for the whole weekend, though, Ken? If you got the app open, which player?
Top point scorer was George Ford with 55.
Oh, right.
Second was Jalabert with 52. So 2 fly halves. Then it went Bielbury 51, Earl 50, Freeman 50. And then it went Ramos 46, Arundel 46, and Cannoni, El Cannoni.
Yeah, mostly, yeah. Carl had him in. Ken, just for the viewers at home, if they want to check who got the most points, what did they do on the app?
On the app, next to it, it says active round. There's a calendar, 2 arrows, and there's a little graph. Click on the little chart, and it should bring up all the players. You can then do it by nation, by round, by position to work out who the top point scorers were.
Yeah, so I'm confused then. I don't know how badly I did this week because I had George Ford, Ben Earl, Ramos.
Is this the
in my weekly
changeable
team?
one?
In my changeable team, yeah.
So top of the league is Salanders Rudy, whoever that is, must be one of the other public people, with 502 points for the week.
That's class.
Second place would be myself at Look at That Tackle with 500 points exactly.
Good stuff.
Game Day Spites RFC 498. Biscuit Knees, that's one of us.
Yeah,
I think that's Buster of 475. Comes in fifth place, the Irishman himself, Keith Shenanigans, 471.5. The 0.5s thanks to Jobby.
Yeah, it was.
Steve Borthwick, which I believe is Adams, is 471 points exactly. Oh, a whole point behind that is Polly's Unchanged, 470. And the lead of our group, Carl Dawson, in 10th place at 441. So he can pick a great podcast team, but he can't pick a good rugby team, can he now?
But then have a look at our unchanged. Have a look at the unchanged league, and the points difference is ridiculous, isn't it? We should be able to put this in screenshot across.
Yeah, we'll get the editor over
I refer to Stato.
It's funny because
let me have a quick look and see if I.
Yeah, because we essentially have 3 leagues. Obviously, we have that one there, which is the proper public league that was the second one that Carl sent out. We have the first one that he sent out, which didn't have the unchanged, and you could pick everyone. And I thought I was doing great in that because
I was 280 stars. You could pick everyone you wanted.
Yeah, so I was in second in that one, and I was like, "Oh, great!" Realized I was looking at the wrong one.
Let me see if I can share my screen, lads.
No worries. We can get the screenshots up afterwards. But yeah, I've got the unchanged one here. Oh yeah, there you go. Happy days.
So this is the unchanged.
Yeah.
No, this is the unchanged league one. This is the right one we're doing, because the public one is the one we've just. They're not showing my team. No, there we go. This is the.
Well, I'll tell you my substitutions for this week if you show it. Go on.
Yeah, I've picked all the injured Irish players. It's all good.
Oh, so have I actually. Yeah.
So is this the unchanged team? Yeah. So I'm down the bottom in 7th.
No, this is the public one. The unchanged. So unchanged. Confirm. So implications. Don't know who they are. 501 points. Keith, you are second.
Like a gentleman.
As a second, yeah, always comes second. Yeah. Then there's Buster Biscuit Knee in third. Merchant Navy, I'm guessing it's one of the other lads. Myself sitting in 5th place. Yeah. Carl. Then there's you, Paul, 7th.
But there's a big jump in points, though, isn't there? So you're talking,
Oh, yeah. There's 17 points between myself and Carl in 1 week. Then there's 37 or 35 points, 34 points. Yeah, massive jump.
The thing is, though, there's nothing we can do about it. Just got to let it run now, haven't we? So it's like there's no admin associated with it. So we just sort of see where it goes and see what happens.
You say that, but I just want to give you a heads up because I don't want you being done. I think as each week changes, I think you have to pick your captain again.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so just look out for that.
Thing is, though, are we allowed to change captain, or do we have to keep with the same captain?
I think it has to be the same captain. I was mulling over that earlier. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it'll refresh every week. It'll take your captain pick out. You just go back in and pick who you had from the first week. Yeah, so it's definitely heating up now. It's Again, interesting first week's in the bag. We'll do a little preview for the matches this weekend. No better place to start than the England-Scotland match. Where do you think that's going to go, lads? Obviously an England win.
Yeah, I think we said earlier, if Scotland come out with the same intensity or the same game plan as they had last week, I think it could be a bit of a cricket score. I think if England carry on even play half where they did against that Scottish team, I think they will rack up 50 odd points again, I reckon.
I think it's going to be a lot tougher than, you can
no, Paul, you're talking shit, mate.
You
tell them, come on, lads, get at it.
You can't write. Unfortunately, I think it's one of those games that someone said to me, "Oh, Polly, where are you watching the game on Saturday?" And I went, "England, Scotland. I got to watch at home. I can't watch it in public. I can't. I get so frustrated and so angry and because they always, the last 5 years, they just turn it on. And Finn Russell is going to have a game on Saturday and they're going to come out because they've got their tails between their legs. They're going to come up with their fucking bravado, their chest out, and they're going to play some fucking superb rugby on Saturday, which is going to be great for the Six Nations. I still think England are going to get a win. I just don't think it will be as... I hope it's a dominant win, but I don't think it'll be as dominant as everyone else is predicting. I think that Scotland team this week will have readjusted and go to their plan, and I think they'll go back to their basics in terms of they'll go back to set piece, they'll go back to the solid stuff, and they'll go work it hard, and then it'll be tough for England to break them down. Maybe a bit of brilliance from out wide again from Arundel, maybe a bit of brilliance from Freeman in the centres and George Ford through the middle will create some try-scoring opportunities for England. But I see it being a bit closer than everybody. Everybody's already written Scotland off, but I think we doing that is giving discredit to Italy, and I think Italy were a lot better than they have been. So I'm not writing Scotland off, but I do think England are going to get a result this weekend. But I'm also scared.
To be honest, I don't think Hugh Jones and Tulapu can be as bad as they were against Italy again this week. I think both class players. I think they just had a bit of an off day. To be honest, actually, Melancello and Brex were just different gravy against them as well. So Freeman and Dingwall are going to have to step up and have that sort of game, I think, for us to be as dominant as I think we're going to be.
As Buster likes to say, those boys are absolute mustard,
Is it? Yeah. Was it the overuse of the word mustard? Wasn't it? That was.
It's like every time he was talking about it, one of his selections is like, "Oh, he's absolute mustard." It was great.
It was better than Polly's stalwart. Oh, he's a stalwart. He's a stalwart.
Yeah. Okay. We all repeat
we
words.
All have our own, we all have our
idiosyncrasies. That's what it is. Little idiosyncrasies that we've all got. I'll find out what yours is, Kent, but you're never there enough, are you? So there you
go. Hang on. So who's disappeared twice already?
I knew you were going to say that.
I knew he was going to say something stupid.
Oh man.
So then, Keith, I'm going to move on to the early kickoff on Saturday, Ireland v Italy. How do you think that's going to go for you?
Well, here, look, if you take the performances from last weekend, I think if Italy play at that level that they did, and if we play as poorly as we did in the first 50, 60 minutes, I think it's going to be close. I know the bookies have Ireland as favourites by 17 points. I don't think it's going to be that. Yeah, they're kind of like when you were saying that the bookie or, the England-Scotland match is going to be tight. The bookies have England only by 8 points, minimum. They have to win by 9 points or more. It says Ireland have to win by 16. They believe that Ireland should be beating this Italian team like that. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that. I think it's going to be a tough contest for our lads. If Italy played the rugby that they did last weekend, it's going to be France's B backline, essentially. They're that good. They could tear us apart if our defensive setup isn't better this weekend. I still have to back us. There's no time I'm going to come on here really, bar last week. I thought we'd lose by 10 points. I think Ireland will win. I think it will be a tough contest, and they'll probably make me eat my words and win by 40 or something. But based off what we've seen so far, I'm going to go like a 12-point victory for Ireland.
Can we please clip this up so next week when it's England versus Ireland, and Keith said he'll never come on here and doubt his team are going to win that. Just we have that clipped up ready for next week.
Yeah. Look. I know in my heart what the real result would be, Kent, but I'm not going to publicise that. Yeah.
It's about being, you got to put your neck on the line, and I think sometimes we can sit on and I that's why I don't like, when it comes to England, Scotland, or specifically that game, or when it comes to England, I hate putting it out there. So I get it, I appreciate it, Keith. I agree with you. I think if Italy play the way they did last week, and I think if Ireland play the way they did last week, it will be closer than people imagine. I also think it would be really good if the game was close. I think if Italy can stay within 10 points and, or have an opportunity to win that game or take the lead in the second half, I think it will make it more interesting for the game of rugby, and as a neutral and as a fan, because I want to see both teams play really, really well, because, it just makes us, how do we prepare for the World Cup next year? And the only way you can prepare for the World Cup is by playing the best teams in the world. So, I think it's definitely great.
If Pendergast is playing, I think they're going to have a lot of re-turf at the centre of that pitch with Brex and Menicello running right up the middle at him. So I think that could be a lot of work for the Van der Flair on the open side, trying to make sure they close those tackles down. So it could be a bit of gamesmanship around that as well, I believe.
So what do we think at the Millennium Stadium as well then? Come on, because I think I do think that, Prendergast will play on Saturday. What do you think, Keith?
He is sorry to interrupt. I think he is
Faz's pick.
Poster boy. He's like that.
Yeah.
First shirt. There you go, Sam.
Yeah, kind of like when you were bringing up the question, it almost felt like the IRFU were cutting off your electricity, Polly. Like I definitely think that he is the poster child, and unfortunately he's going to have the reins again on Saturday. But look, I wish him the best. I hope he performs great. I hope he improves tremendously, because players improving is the best for the nation. And I don't like coming on here and bashing the young fella, but at the same time, I'm honest and I'm just saying what I see with my own two eyes. So, Prendergast will probably play. It'll probably be a tight match. Ireland-Italy is probably the international game that I've gone to the most over the last number of years. Big fan of Parise when he was captain of Italy. But always great when we'd be trouncing them, but he'd get over for a try. The whole Aviva Stadium be giving him a clap because they knew what a warrior he was. I think it'd be a close game. Probably, 8 points, probably difference. And
I say,
triple figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we give Wales minus score? Because they can score. I don't try and just take points off.
Well, Wales were 34. Wales to win at the weekend had to give England a 34-point head start. So I think going into this game, that's what the odds had were the game. I don't know. I haven't got a bookies page open, but I would imagine it's somewhere.
Don't worry, Keith probably has.
Oh, well, yeah. If you give me like 30 seconds, I could get you the odds now. But I definitely think it's going to be another tough day for Welsh international rugby. Look, I just don't see anything other but the bottom of the table for this team, this tournament, unfortunately. And it's going to be a long old stint on. They're playing on Sunday, aren't they?
Yeah, it's that's a tough ask for Wales, But guess what? There's one thing I can guarantee you. When you watch that game on Sunday, is the Millennium Stadium, the Principality, whatever you want to call it. What is it called now? The Piccadilly. You called it the Piccadilly Stadium earlier. I think they've got I think there's a new
sponsor
naming sponsor for it, but we'll call it the Millennium Stadium because that's
Millennium Stadium. Is the
noise in there will be immense. regardless of what will happen. And I think the French will be. I think the French will be amazing. The roof will be closed. It'll be dry. It'll probably be the only dry game, maybe the only dry game of the weekend, because it hasn't stopped fucking raining for a month and 2 months now. I'm bored of the rain.
Even today, Polly, like 2:00 in the office, the sun was blinding coming through the glass. And at the same time, it was pissing down rain. And I was like, this is the most Irish thing ever. But yeah, 100% sick of this weather. I need some winter sun seriously soon. Like,
Keith, don't worry about it. When me and Paul are full, we've still got a hosepipe down there, so it's still fine.
To be fair, the only reason why I can complain about the weather is because Carl's not on here, so therefore I don't mind complaining, because otherwise he'll be like, it was like 20 degrees outside earlier today.
I know.
He sat in his fucking Speedos next to his swimming pool. It's only a mild 31 degrees here.
Yeah.
Need to put a jumper on.
At night too, lads. Come on, like.
I've just had to put my slippers on. It touched 18. I was like, fuck off. Anyway,
he's the worst person. A ginger bloke enjoying the sunshine is not quite right, is it?
No, it makes me even worse. So the next question I'm going to ask is, who do you think is going to be the pick for the weekend? Then don't tell me who you picked, but who do you think?
Well, I'll happily
going to be the top point scorer?
I'll happily tell you if you tell me first, Ken.
Be honest, I reckon again. I think George Ford's going to have a massive points haul again for England. As you say, with Mitchell putting on the front foot with the options he's got and the way he's playing at the moment is just different class. I think he's finally put to bed that issue of who is England's 10. He's been unfortunate. He's had to fight for Farrell. He's had to fight with both Smiths now. And I think his old head is now coming through. And I think he's playing, as I said, Paul said earlier, playing some of the best rugby he's played in his lifetime. And it's coincided with England coming back into form.
I think for this weekend, points-wise, I think you can't go far away from any of the French backs. I think you can sort of safely say that the French in some way, shape or form will be scoring some points at the weekend. So it'll be nice to see them.
Yeah,
the Welsh, is it?
Go ahead, Kent.
Sorry, the Welsh centre, that Thomas, the one who's been playing 10 for them for a little while, I thought defensively he was outstanding against England. I thought he made every tackle he had to make. It's just unfortunate that he had to make 472 tackles in that game. The fact that he just got overrun a little bit.
Yeah, that's the issue. They have individuals who clearly have quality, but when you're trying to cover the space of two or three lads around you that aren't up to the same level that you are, and you've got a world-class team coming at you, it's just going to be a cricket score in a rugby match. Kind of like I fully agree with Polly. It's going to be hard to look away from any of the French backs this weekend. I will tell you that in my changeable team, the only one that I had points available because of our strict restrictions on the points, thanks Carl, I've put in Gullar for Chesham. Just because of his performance last weekend. Obviously Chesham did really well last weekend, but that's the only one I could really make a switch to. I would have put Freeman in, but I just don't have the stars to do it. I
had Gulliard in my team, my team of the week this week. So
probably.
My changeable team.
I did as well.
He was superb and
he was brilliant.
So who's the flank? Is it Jogu? He scored 31 points for them. I thought he played the whole 80 minutes, I believe, as well.
I think that French team itself was just they were brilliant everywhere. And then they even had the back row and the second row who played. Olivon played in the second row with Gulliard as well. So and then they bring Moefano off the bench. You're right though. The French team changed at half. 50 minutes. You take the man of the match off. He was superb in the second row. And I think sometimes second rows don't get enough credit. I'm not saying that because I was a second row, but second rows don't get enough credit. They just do some of the donkey stuff.
100%, and that's why we've ended up picking, like, for the majority of the lads, picking Byrne and Itoje because you know they're absolute workhorses out there, and anytime that there's a breakdown, they're going to have their hands on the ball trying to turn it over. Look, the second rows get a big thumbs up from me. I think that.
Does it mean you'd have to push as an 8? Is that what it is?
What's that?
Exactly, yeah.
Does it mean because you'd have to push as an 8? That's what it is, yeah.
It's great. We get the ball at the feet and be able to like kick it up, you know, and go over and take all the plaudits.
Paul, I played in front of you as a second row, mate. You never pushed in second row. Mate, that's why the scrums turned in the circle. The fact that they think you were going backwards, you were the Italian.
I'm not even.
Second row,
I'm not even biting to this, Ken. This is just. This isn't. This is. You know, I can add that to things that never happened.
Yeah, what? Yeah, you pushing? Yeah, never happened. Or jumping either. That's how I've listed you, mate.
Assisted.
Now still.
I think you'll find it was assisted. Assisted jumping. That's what I call it.
Yeah, I was just going to say
it was a lift. It wasn't a line out jump. It was a lift. It was a transition. But I guarantee you, I caught everything in the air. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, his reflexes are too good. Nothing gets over his head.
Part of technology.
Oh yeah, well that's.
I have to say, I saw some of the footage of the Italian lineouts, and I mentioned our group chat. I don't think they should be called lifters and jumpers anymore. They should be called throwers and catch. Literally, launchers. They're literally throwing him. The bloke's actually let go, and the hands in the air. It's about his calves. I'm like, that's just insane these days.
I watched that first. First, it did it in I'm sure it was it the Chileans in the World Cup where they were lifting, or was the Argentinians? They were let go of the people.
Argentinians.
But I think you'll find that there's a fine line, because the rule that I just double checked the laws. You have to bring him down safely as well. You know.
Yeah. If you look at the video, the back lifter is like kind of turning before he's even let the floor. So he literally throwing out there and just buggering off.
If and I know we have to look after the player in the air, and we're getting into the technicalities of it. But if I'm a lifter or a supporter, you're just moving across the line out, you just touch him in any way, shape, or form in the air, and the guy's going on his arse. Yeah. And whose fault is it? It's not. It's the lifter's fault, because when you lift that player in the air, that's like jumping out of a tackle, isn't it? You're not allowed to jump out of a tackle, you know. So I don't know. Is it dangerous? Is it? I don't know. I think I think it is dangerous. At some point, I think at some point someone's going to look at that and go, it'll only take one person to just get knocked in the air, and all of a sudden they're coming right down. Ankle. You know, because we're not talking about you know, we talk about competing for the ball in the air. You know, from that high ball from a box kick, and you're competing in the air. I mean, because who was it at the weekend? There was a big one. There was a big collision, and you know, I thought Freddie Stewart was going to go out after he did that big one, and because the guy was looking at the ball, but he's jumped so far ahead. At no point has he jumped up; he's jumped forwards. You know, and you're talking about those. It's competition in the air, and it's like, yeah, but he's only maybe 1.5 foot off the ground. This guy is nearly 7 foot, 6 foot off the ground. Any nudge, any knock, and he's going on his arse. But you've put him in that position. You've created that environment. It's like at a ruck, isn't it? Or, you know, if you've put that person in the way and then they've slowed the ball down, it's on you. You know, I don't know. They will only change the law, or they will only go, that's not right, when somebody sees it as too much of an advantage.
Well, lads, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. It's just gone 80 minutes. We've done a full match here, going through last weekend's and previewing next week's. Gone through the fantasy, everything, stuff like that. Look, thanks very much for your time this evening. Thanks to everyone who's listened up to this point of the podcast. Rugby Through the League on all socials. If you made it this far, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll be back next week going through all the results of this weekend. And until then, have a good rest of your week.